Itinerary-wise, we're going to start off with the planning phase, then look at communication. Then I've got some good examples. So I'm going to get quite practical, show you some stuff that you won't have seen before. And you may have seen some of it, but I doubt you'll have seen all of it. So there'll definitely be a few ideas there that will make you raise a few eyebrows. Maybe they won't make you shout out, wow, but they'll definitely raise your eyebrows, I'm hoping for. And we'll finish off with looking at how to measure and ensure that pre-boarding is working. And as I mentioned, we're talking about pre-boarding here, the bit from offer through to day one. And then this time next week, 10 o'clock on Tuesday, we will be doing part 2, which is looking at technically onboarding from day 1 through to day 90, that sort of induction process, how to get that right, which is really key for us as well. So I'm going to put that webinar, the link to that webinar, on the chat as well. So if you haven't signed up for that and you want to, please do. If you're busy next Tuesday, but obviously this is relevant, feel free to sign up. You will get, by signing up, you will get the recording and the slides. Okay, and let's start with a quick survey. So what I want to do, this is quite a simple survey, just to sort of test out the room. We've got 76 people in the session. So just to see how happy you are with your pre-boarding, I will share the results. I won't be talking about any individual, but just the overall crowd. And I want to see when the last time you reviewed or enhanced your onboarding process. Okay, so I can see lots of people voting on that, which is fantastic. So it's only 2 questions there, so I'm going to just count down for 10 seconds and then we'll wrap that up and I'll show you the results. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So there we go. Share the results. So quite often, yeah, most people want to do this type of survey is people in that middle range. So, a few people that are, 20% of people are a bit frustrated. But actually most people are somewhat happy. I think onboarding has been one of those areas whereby expectations have risen. We've certainly seen more people asking us as a software provider to see what we offer in the onboarding space. So I think expectations have risen from candidates initially, I would suggest, and then also recruiters are having to keep up with those expectations. So it's an ongoing challenge. And then, yeah, what have we got here? So about 70% of people have reviewed their onboarding and enhanced it within the last 12 months. So that's pretty good. Some people are not so sure. Maybe they've recently joined. They're not sure when it was last looked at. Okay, that's interesting. So let's look at some planning ideas then, guys. I think one of the most important things, as for anything, it starts with setting out some goals. So, what are you trying to achieve with your onboarding? And you're probably trying to achieve all 3 of these goals. You want people to understand what's happening, where they are in the process, what they need to provide you with, etc., etc. That would be pretty standard. You also want to provide a level of support to people to make sure they know where they can ask questions and where to go if they've got a challenge or a concern. But you also then, and this is perhaps almost hierarchical, those first 2 are a given. The last one, maybe some organizations are not quite able to achieve yet, but might want to, and hopefully today will inspire you to do that a bit better. And that's build that social connection. You'll see things today, like because of the world we live in. I mean, I went to university in 1996. I walked in, I didn't know anyone there. Now, if you've got son, daughters, or you've recently been to university yourself in the last 5, 10 years, you'll know that there's groups that are set up well in advance. People are sort of connecting and messaging all summer with people that are on their course, and they walk in and they sort of semi-know a few people. That's universities and people going to form new campuses. It can be similar with the level of technology we've got with onboarding. You can start to get people engaged or at least aware and more comfortable of what they're walking into, who the team is, all this stuff. It's just a matter of how much time and effort you have to do this. But there is software and there's our friend AI as well, which can definitely help you to create some of the content and stuff to educate and maybe pull back the curtain to your new employees so they walk in day 1 and they don't feel like it's a sort of, a really intimidating or, environment. It's an environment that they've got a level of comfort with. We all have different levels of anxiety, so you've got to be mindful of that. But certainly building out that space so it doesn't feel as intimidating is going to be helpful to all employees, but some employees will be really important to as well. Okay, so how are you going to manage the process? Whatever you decide, this is how we're going to do it. This is right. These are the steps. This is what we're going to do. If we took something like supporting the users, so right, what do we do if people have got questions, which they will have? They're new hires. They don't know everything. You've breezed them through a recruitment process and they've been focused on, what's in front of them, this interview, this assessment, whatever it is. And they will have asked a few questions as they go. But once you become a new hire, it's a bit like buying a house. You've got many, many, many more questions. Yeah. Once you get into that really serious phase. And it might have been that when they went through the recruitment process, they didn't want to be bothering you asking lots and lots of questions because they felt, well, is it a bit weird that I'm asking about what the lunch options are when I'm at second interview? And perhaps it is. But now that you've been offered and you're going to come in and that lunch option, where I'm going to eat my lunch, is going to be super relevant for me. That's, the type of question that I'll need to get asked now. So how do you keep track of, first and foremost, then the tasks that you need these new employees to do? Yeah. Who's going to oversee that? Who's going to answer any questions, but who's going to make sure they're on? Because like anything, some people will leave stuff till last minute. Depends what communication you give them. You might say, right, these sets of tasks need to be done 4 weeks before you start. That might be a deadline. Others might need to be done 1 week before you start. Others just might need to be done and brought with you on day one. But whatever those deadlines are, I'm sure some people will be a little bit like me and leave everything to last minute. So you're going to need to work out what the deadlines are and have someone owning it to make sure that people are doing those tasks. The other thing to be mindful of, and that could be like uniform, company car, laptop, but all these things are critical. If someone doesn't choose what laptop they want, whether it's Windows or Mac, then maybe on day one, that laptop isn't set up and ready. So all of these things are critical to them having a good start. But one person has to own this. And also, if people don't do these tasks, it is a bit of an early warning sign that maybe they're not fully invested in joining. Maybe they're not going to turn up day one. Maybe they might have a change of heart, or maybe there's a problem. Maybe there's something that they're worried about or whatever that you need to get in and speak. But certainly monitoring the tasks, anyone who's not completing the tasks at the rate you'd normally expect is a good opportunity to engage with them. It doesn't have to be like a school teacher to student type relationship where you're going in and moaning at them for not getting their homework done, but you definitely can be supportive to say, hey, look, you're a little bit, these tasks are still outstanding. Did you need any help? Have you got any questions? Easily done. But also, there's also a challenge around content, around getting documents available to them. And the more you can do, it's a bit like a career site that we set up for, prospective job seekers that are looking at your organization. You also need, it wouldn't necessarily be on a website, but you also need content created for new hires. Yeah, that might help them answer a lot of questions they've got. And that might also, if you build template documents, that can reduce your ongoing admin burden because everything's set up ready to go. If there's a form they need to fill out, it's there, it's done. If there's there's information that explains how to complete that form and why that form's important, well, that will reduce the amount of questions you've got coming in. So these are all people will generally want to help themselves, particularly at this stage. They're a new hire, they haven't done any positive work for you yet. They've not got to that level where they're comfortable in the organization. Perhaps it'd probably be most new hires are don't want to be bothering you with more questions. If they can solve the questions themselves, that's what they'll want to do. So one of the things I recommend, your organizations probably have different tools. We use Notion here to document and get everything that we use set up. But Notion it's easy to create pages, like it's an internal intranet wiki style thing. And it's easy. They have templates already built if you want to use them. I just wanted to show you this as an example. So you can come along here. These are all people who've built templates. Most of them are free. And you've got a new hire onboarding. Okay, you just click into it and you can sort of see the template. and it has checklists and stuff. And you just go in and edit it, literally just type over and edit it, change the images, change the logos. And it's as simple as that. Let me just view the template if I can go in and see. So these are quite good. They give you the structure, then you can add certain things to them. But like I say, different organizations work to different things, but I would encourage you, if you haven't got anything, then a tool like Notion is a pretty good option. So yeah, so this is just each person, and you probably wouldn't have the images here. This is just a really simple thing to provide the checks and stuff, and you can provide them access to this, and it just keeps you across everything they're doing. So that's like a little task management, but you can also have pages here to support them with just content explaining where to eat lunch and things like this. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting your content together, working out what questions new employees are asking you. What are the things they want to know? We'll talk later in this session about surveys and onboarding and capturing. That's a great time to capture questions about how we can improve things. But also, if they're asking you and your colleagues questions, keeping a note of those major themes. People are asking lots about, they've got loads of questions about hybrid working. We probably haven't clarified that well enough. Okay, well, let's make sure we explain that fully and what it means. And if it varies by department, let's break that down by department so we can provide that to them and make them accessible. I'm also going to talk to you about chatbots as well. The more content that you write down and you say, okay, this is our hybrid policy, this is how it works in each department because it varies. The more content you have written down, then the chatbot can read that. And then if they've got a question, instead of going looking for it, because you build loads and loads and loads of pages, that could be good. But for some people, it might get, oh, there's so much information here. And I'll show you chatbots in a wee second. And the more content you've written, the chatbot can just go and find the answer and provide the answer to them. So writing all this content and getting it all organized is really, really useful. Yeah, let me know if you've got any questions, guys. We'll keep moving on. Obviously, I've shown you the Notion example. You're probably not going to be super surprised that hireful has its own onboarding portal that works with our customers, and it allows the customer then to invite the candidate into a portal where they can read through, answer questions, complete tasks, complete forms, watch videos, that type of thing. Obviously, completely customizable for each customer because that will change based on their needs. And each customer can have several different workflows. Obviously, if someone's joining as an area manager, or if they're going to just be a low-level sales assistant in a shop part-time while they're at university, there's probably a different onboarding process. Yeah, but this plan it phase, I think one of the key things is ownership. It has to be individual level ownership. So someone should be responsible for onboarding as a whole. And then if someone's coming in to join the IT department, then the question is who owns their onboarding? Might be a different person than the person that owns the onboarding for someone joining the sales department, but that's fine. But ownership is absolutely key. It should be very clear and consistent. This person's owning it. This person is responsible for making sure that your new hire has everything they need, is completing their tasks on time, and arrives on day one and doesn't feel like overwhelmed or intimidated because you've made a really good impression on them. And we're going to measure that. We're going to survey that so we can sort of start to judge how well those individuals who are owning it, how well they're doing. And obviously, it's not their opinions that matter, it's the opinions of your new hires. Okay, so let's look at some communication options because clearly communication is the big thing. Nick's asked, does hireful integrate with other ATSs? No, not in this space, Nick. No, we might build the odd little tool as a little marketing tool in the future to help with onboarding. I know we've got like a reference checker and things like that, but yeah, not really, unfortunately. It's not because we're not friendly and nice, it's just because it hasn't really been a big need to. So can it be used independently? Yeah, it can be used independently, I believe, to a degree. We haven't got anyone using it independently, but feel free to reach out to us, Nick, if we can have have one of my colleagues have a conversation about exactly what we need. Okay, so communication. This is what we want to avoid. We want to avoid a scenario whereby there's lots of research that suggests that people are so excited when they get their offer, like energized. And then quite often they might not hear for a little while things, and they get a little bit, that energy level drops a bit, their engagement level drops a bit. So that's what we want to avoid. You've got them super excited, they've accepted your offer, they're excited about their new job. There's going to be a gap of maybe it's 4 weeks, maybe it's 6, maybe it's longer. We've got to think about it and plan it out to keep that engagement level going. Yeah. And quite often that is to a degree around, the sort of tone of voice you use and the enthusiasm. We'll talk about that in this section, but also around, sort of staggering things out. So there is, if you've got a longer process, maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks, I appreciate it depends on, many factors, including notice periods, DBS checks and things like this. If it's a longer process, you might want to think about staggering things out. So you might have everything you need to send to that new onboardee on day one, but you might choose, let's send it bit by bit so it's less overwhelming. So there's more of a constant communication with us as well. So it's not like they've sat there going, oh, I haven't heard from you in 4 weeks. I assumed I was still joining, but they don't seem very excited about me. They've clearly moved on to the next hires they're hiring. Okay, and then we definitely want to have a look at, and you want to get the old post-it notes out and have a look at your entire communication process. I say this as well when you look at the recruitment candidate experience. So like what happens after someone applies, what's the message there? What's the message when you schedule them, when you shortlist them, schedule them for interview, all these types of things. So you should do that for the recruitment process. Hopefully you've done that, or if you haven't, have a think about that. But that doesn't stop at the recruitment process. It carries on through. You've made the offer, right? Where are the touch points? What is it you're going to communicate? How frequently? What's the method of communication? You should be thinking about that. And in many cases, you just got to be mindful. I think where I've seen this done a lot is you're sending out information about what you want. Okay, and it's a little bit transactional. Here's the forms. Here's the link to the portal. Here's this. You need to go here, complete this, and we'll all be set up. Okay, that's fine because you need to send that. I totally get that, and by all means, send that as the main theme of that email. But then maybe in a few days' time, you've got another email sending out or something that says, "Here's some ideas around." Here's a little insight what goes on into the office. Here's some ideas that will help your first week go a bit smoother. And there's where maybe you put links to the content like where to get lunch, traveling and parking, reminders about how to get to the office and how to not be stressed out with your commute. Here's our best options for parking and traveling and all these other things. So, you put all those little nice things that are purely there for them to help them in other emails, so they can sort of see there's a balance. Every time they hear from you, it's not you asking for something, it's you being nice. Now, what I say with candidate experience absolutely applies here. It's your values as an organization that should flow through this. So one of our values, a couple of values that we've got at hireful are fun and helpful, hence including in the name. There's 4 other values. I won't bother going into them so much, but those are values that need to come through in this process. We need to be thinking, okay, I'm looking at the email going, could we be more helpful here? Is there anything more we could do? Is this the right tone of voice? Are we sounding too formal because we are a professional organization, but we also want people to know that we enjoy our work. We want people to enjoy working here. So we don't want to be too boring with our tone of voice. I'm going to show you some of the emails we send in a bit, probably the next couple of slides. And you'll see our tone of voice is very fun, and possibly too much fun. But it depends on where you are in the recruitment process. These are new hires. You can get excited with them. If someone applies for a new job, then we wouldn't quite be as fun because, we don't know them as well. And they might just be frustrated. They might just be like, I just want to find, I'm in between a job. I don't have I've got a mortgage to pay, Adrian. I don't need a fun email. What I need is you to look at my application and see where I'm going on. So there's levels of, now we're working together with these people. They're going to be hired to our organization. They're going to be joining soon. We can be ourselves and lean into that. But before we get into that email copy, and I think it will be a lot of emails. I think I'll talk about different methods as well, but I think it will be a lot of emails. A few things to think about generally when you're putting out email copy. If it's a long detail, let's put subheadings in there. It's just easier for people to read. Let's be personal. Let's use their first name, obviously, but let's talk about we and you, and let's really use engaging language. We want to. This is a key one as well. You want to be show that you're excited for them. You're triumphant. You can even remind them of how well they've done to achieve this hire. You know, to be chosen, not in a sort of arrogant way. You're lucky to be joining our business, but you know, you've done really well to. You know, we have a solid recruitment process as you've experienced, and you know, you've come through the other side of it with flying colours. You know, we think you're going to be a great hire. We're excited for you joining us. That's the sort of tone we're looking for that I think sometimes can get missed. And obviously make yourself accessible. So who is the contact? There should be no confusion around who they can go to ask a question. That should be very obvious. Yeah. And obviously, as we said, make sure your company culture, mission, and most importantly, your values shine through. Because if at any point you're saying, oh, we're this, let's say in our case, we're a fun, helpful, knowledgeable company, you're saying these things, then that needs to be demonstrated. If people's experience is not that, you know, they engage with one person who's, you know, very formal, you know, not particularly helpful, then that is going to make them feel like these values are just stuff we put on the wall and don't actually follow through on. So a few emails just to show you examples. You know, this is an important email as well. It might take some organizations a day or two to get out the offer email, the offer letter, you know, the formal offer saying, here's the salary, here's this, here's that. That can be, depends on the organization. Hopefully today with technology, that there's no reason why that can't go within an hour for many organizations. You know, we have, you know, document signing, you know, you can send out the offer letter from our ATS. Most ATSs have that, so it can work really slick. But, you know, maybe it takes a bit longer, fine. But it's really nice when you get off the phone to someone, you change a status in the system, and someone just gets an email saying, hi, Tony, congrats on choosing to make hireful your next chosen career destination, you know, and it says like, you know, we're really proud to count you among that number. You know, we only hire people who can make a real difference here. So like you sort of see the triumphantness of it. Yeah, and then tells them what's going to happen next. Yeah, and the idea is that comes from the hiring manager. Yeah, because the hiring manager ultimately is the person who's hired them. And that's where we want to build that really strong relationship, hopefully. Yeah, and then we just got a couple of others. There's like this one. We wouldn't send this one in the middle of a recruitment process, because in the middle of a recruitment process, like, oh, we haven't heard from us in a while. We've still got your application. You know, not to worry. Here's a funny picture of a cat playing a piano. Yeah, we wouldn't send that email because people might be like, that's great, but I've got, you know, I'm in between jobs and I've got bills stacking up here. So I really don't need this email with a cat playing a piano. I need you to work out whether you're scheduling this interview, for example. Now, someone's been onboarded, they're being hired, they've got a start date, it's all good. But if there's any gap in the process, we haven't, you know, where, you know, we're just letting them know, or, you know, there's nothing particular we need to add in here. We don't need to send you anything. We've sent you everything. But, you know, you haven't heard from us in a while. So we just want to let you know we are thinking of you. We are busy planning for your arrival. And it's nice to send an email where you're not asking for anything. Yeah. Nothing needed, nothing further needed. We're just thinking of you. We're planning for you. Here's a fun little picture. You know, I keep saying cat playing a piano or whatever. You can personalize that as a manager to whatever you want to do, and away you go. And it just reminds them, as ever, I'm here. Any questions? You know, come back to me. Let me know. Yeah. So that's one I'd recommend as well. But like all of these, it says, you know, warning, this is very hireful. The idea is, you know, you can create your own tone with this. The tone of voice, the organization's tone of voice, ours is much more informal than many organizations, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. Our tone of voice is not the best tone of voice for every organization. Okay, and the last one is like the not long to go. Maybe you're sending this like the week to go, that sort of thing. And this is an important one as well, because you're sort of telling them, you know, you're putting a lot of work in, you're getting things organized. If there's any problem at all and they're not going to come in on day one, hopefully this is the email that triggers it. Yeah. And you might think, well, what's the benefit in that? It gives you a few days notice. You know, that's good. At least you know Tony's not joining. That's fine. Maybe it's a situation you can resolve. Maybe you don't even want to resolve it if they've let you down last minute. But it's better to know than just have someone not turn up on day one, which unfortunately does happen. Okay, and then I'm going to poll you guys about this as well, and just give you a quick survey again and ask this. But communication options. So, you know, think about how you want to communicate. I've said a lot of this is email. I think email will be the bulk of the sort of the sort of stuff you need. But actually around that, where are the questions going to go? How does the candidate want to interact with you? And it is, I think, ideally them, how they want to interact. I've put Facebook Messenger on here, probably only relevant if you hide them on Facebook. You're probably not going to suggest Facebook Messenger, but if you've hired them via Facebook, which does happen, not very often, then maybe it's reasonable to carry on that as a channel. But I think for the most part, the bits that I think raise questions here are some people might want to just have someone to call. And therefore, you might need to think about that. Managers might need to make themselves available and actually answer their phone. So that's something to bear in mind, or check their voicemail if they don't do it. I'm not very good at checking my voicemail. It depends on who you hire. I would imagine younger people are more likely to be SMS or WhatsApp. Younger people might not be on WhatsApp. My kids are terrible on WhatsApp, so maybe SMS might be better. But it's better to, let them know perhaps that you're available on these. If you're the manager looking after their process, then maybe tell them these are the methods you can contact me by. I'm perfectly happy. Phone me, do this, do that. My job is to make sure I answer all your questions during this process. So feel free to reach out. And you could say no question is too silly, but really, I think a lot of people will have a lot more questions than they ever ask. And they'll join in on day one and they'll lean over to their new person who seems very nice next to them and go, well, I always wanted to find, I didn't want to ask Tony, the manager, but what's the score with? And they'll ask that question. Yeah. I actually got a better solution for all those extra questions that they didn't want to burden the manager with. We'll talk about that in just a second. I'll show you it. But what I want to do first is I want to ask you a quick question around what methods you guys offer for communication. One simple question. You can tick all that apply, and you'll see the last one on there is chatbots. That's what I'm going to show you next. So this is what options you make available to candidates so that they can engage with you via. And if there's something else, feel free to tick that. Feel free to let me know in the chat if there's an alternative option that I didn't think of that's a little bit left field or innovative. We love innovative ideas. Okay, I'm just going to give that 5 more seconds because it's a quick question. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, there we go. Right, so obviously everyone says email. That's pretty much it. The phone is there 72% of the time. The only thing I'd say with the phone is it's great. It's just got to be a good experience. It's got to be they can actually get through to people. I think various managers might not be so good, but it might be the HR department. I keep saying managers are managing this. I think that's the ideal solution, but it's only ideal if managers have enough time and can deliver it to a good level. If they can't, maybe it's someone in HR. Maybe if you're a large organization, it's actually an onboarding team. But a few people then saying 19% saying SMS and then 9% saying WhatsApp. It's interesting, WhatsApp. I feel like WhatsApp's become far more of a business tool. You guys might slightly disagree, but I get business messages via WhatsApp now. Some people I know don't like that. That's perfectly fine. But for candidates, I think WhatsApp's like this universal tool that everyone seems to use. My mum's 74 years old. She uses WhatsApp all the time. Not particularly great, but she uses it. So I feel like it's a tool that lots of people will use because they find it's just easy. And that's what you want to make. So yeah, okay, that's interesting. And then I want to show you, I put this next slide in the things that make you go wow, but really it's in the communication area. But I think it has an element of wow. And what we're trying to do in this section is think of a few things that will make the candidate go, oh, and maybe some of them won't necessarily be wow moments, but will make the candidate start to go, oh, that's really interesting. Maybe the type of thing they'll go home and tell their partner, so-and-so sent me through this today, it was really interesting, or, that's good. So it will get them excited and engaged, just reassures them they've made the right decision. So first up, we have been in the business of building chatbots. And these, if Nick's interested, because he asked about does it work independently of our ATS on the onboarding side, the chatbots do work completely independently of the ATS. So let me just bring through our friendly chatbot here. It should be nice and friendly. So this chatbot has been built for the idea for a new hire, for onboardees. So we can ask any question we want. Obviously, it's trained on joining hireful. Where do and I don't know. I haven't used it in a while. I was involved at the start of this project, but not recently, the rollout. So I don't know if it'll answer all my questions. However, if it doesn't know the answer to a question, then it will give you the answers. It will say, I don't know, which is really important. So the chatbot, the technology on the chatbot, you can see it's giving me a few things. We've got some local shops. That we don't have a great answer for that because we don't have an on-site canteen or anything, but at least it confirms to the candidate what they need to know. Let me say like, what do I wear or something. And these are the sort of things that maybe people, this is where I said a lot of new hires will have lots more questions than they will ever ask their manager because they don't want to be pestering them. And the manager told them, oh, we're really busy. That's why we need to hire more people into this team, et cetera, et cetera. So the chatbot, they can just ask loads and loads of questions at. The chatbot never gets tired. The chatbot never gets tetchy. You can just ask away. And if it doesn't know the answer, let me think of something it might know the answer to. Is there a rooftop bar? I don't think there is at hireful. I haven't found it yet, but I don't think it will know the answer to that. If it doesn't know the answer, it will say, I can't find that information. Okay. Okay, so that's nice and simple. Technology is easy for us to implement. That's why these chatbots we roll out, they're super reasonable and cost effective. They're not expensive at all. The challenge, and this is where we work with every customer on the project, is gathering up all the information that sits behind the chatbot, the data set. That's the challenge. Okay, it's not hugely challenging. A lot of it can be built, come from your employee handbook and policies, and you simply give that document into the chatbot, and then it instantly knows, what the situation is with hybrid working or something like that. So hopefully it'll work out. It probably will work out. I mean, hybrid working. It might not, but it is. That's where the AI comes in, where it worked out even though I did a typo. So it tells them what the process is for hybrid working. Okay. So yeah, what we do on each rollout is work with the customer to get their documentation together. We also build surveys as well, which can go out. These are voice surveys. They can go out to managers to get all the information that's trapped in their head. So if there's a load of questions like, what projects does the team work through? How does this department, how does what they do feed into the overall mission of the organization? So there's a series of questions that we have as a template you can choose from, or there's a series of questions you might write yourself. And managers can just push a mic button and actually record their answer. Because don't forget, the manager doesn't type out this answer. We're not providing the manager's answer. We're providing the information into the AI, into the data set, and then the AI chatbot summarizes it, makes it nice and succinct, and pops it there. But you can also see what they've said before we put it in there. It's important to just read through the transcript. What they've said seems fine, throw it in. So actually, we've got a pretty slick way of building that data set. So the data set really sets out the quality of the product. The quality of the experience with the chatbot is all based on, can I easily get lots of good answers to my questions? And that's what we feel we have available here. So the chatbot can sit in the onboarding portal, can sit on your intranet, can sit anywhere else, can just be a URL you send them. And we're also working this through now. So once again, my friend WhatsApp, the chatbot could just sit on WhatsApp. And we also see this as potentially supporting candidates all the way through their experience with the organization. So this doesn't have to be, because we put the employee handbook there and it's got all the answers to policies and what is the bereavement policy. Let me just type that in. So hold on, let me type. What is the bereavement policy? It can act like the first line of support for your HR department, where you might get lots of questions, or someone might have someone in their family who passes away and they learn about it 4 a.m. in the morning or something. They can quickly get answers to those questions. So it has sort of multiple uses. Okay, so, and like I said, pretty easy to set up. So as well. Good, right. There's a little insight as a sort of wow moment. Here's our chatbot can answer all questions. I think when you give that out, you just need to be mindful. I think people that are maybe the neurodiverse people will definitely typically prefer that method than phoning someone up or chasing, they'll prefer just to engage like that perhaps. But also, just because you've built a chatbot, you still want to be accessible. Yeah. So you say like, this is for all the other questions that people might, all the other additional questions, any questions you've got. This is obviously for 24/7 as well. But obviously feel free to come back to me and ask me questions as well. You've got to be accessible as well as having the support of the chat bot. Now Ellie's asked a great question. Can you see what questions I've asked? There is a log, there's a full report. You can see every interaction, what's going on. And the important one there, Ellie, as well, is every time you saw the rooftop bar question, which is a daft question, obviously, every time you get a question that couldn't be answered, you also get that as a monthly report as well. So you can then go in and say, these are all the areas we need to go provide additional. You might just have one question. You just write out the question, write out the answer, and we can just load that straight. You can load it straight into your data set. And then next time, the chatbot's ready and able to answer that question. Okay. Other ideas, I don't know if this is wow, but just little subtle. Some of these are really micro things, but you don't have to start everyone on a Monday. Particularly if you think about the office. Our office here is hybrid working. Monday, I was in yesterday because it's this is lovely aircon here, whereas at home it's not. And I brought the dog in, and the dog probably appreciated the aircon more than me. So there's only about 4 people in this office on a Monday. It really was quiet. Now, maybe that's a good day to start someone, because if you're there with them, then you can, but equally, I would prefer myself, as my personality, to maybe have an office that's a bit buzzier, a couple of dozen people here like they would be on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So think about what day you want to start them on. You don't have to just start them on a Monday, is my mindset. Why would you? It might be that you can start them on a Wednesday. You can start them earlier, even better. Make day one special. Now you can work out exactly how you want to make day one special, but that is really key. That people should leave after day one. They might not have like thrown loads at them. They might not have learned loads and loads and loads maybe about their job. Hopefully they've learned enough about the organization. It's like a bit of a sales pitch, on day one within reason, if you get my general idea there. They start to get like the education around the organization, what it does, and start to link things together. And they start to hopefully feel like they could be part of this mission. But making day one special is all about, making them feel appreciated and excited to work there. And I think the problem you also have here, this isn't just an opportunity, it's also a potential problem, is that as more and more organizations execute a really good onboarding process and have little swag bags and these types of things, it depends on your industry. If you're joining a warehouse, I doubt you get a little swag bag. Maybe you do that. It'd be a nice touch. But if you're joining, a tech company in London, chances are you do. So you've also got expectations here to deal with as well. Announce new hires. I think this is a great way to make people feel special as well. Posting out. It's also a nice way of reminding, all of their ex-staff at the other companies are going to be reminded that they've just started here. They look very happy. They might hop onto your career site that morning. So this has potential recruitment aspects to it as well. But just once again, showing how excited you are to have hired these, lovely people to join your team. I think that's a really good message. But also, throughout that process, onboarding process, you want to be leaning into those mission and values. People are joining, they shouldn't be able to get through like the first few days without seeing what, feeling and knowing what the mission of the organization is. And everything you've said to them in the recruitment process about these are our values, these things, that should be sort of really reinforced, and they start to see those values in action as they're joining and going through the induction. And yeah, I think about them providing a chance to get social with your team. That's a great thing to do as well pre-day one. So you might invite them to a little social gathering if they want to. If there's a monthly end of month lunch or something, and it's viable, invite them to it by all means if that works. But it should be obviously non-obligatory. But also the other side of it is you might ask them to say, right, you're joining, next week. The whole team's on the Thursday. We're going to go for a little lunch. Here are the 3 options. Because you're the new starter, you get to choose which of these 3 options you would like. Yeah, just like that. They just get to choose whether they're going to Nando's or Costa Coffee or whatever. So yeah, simple as that. So, but that putting that information out to them a week before they start does hopefully get them excited and feel like, oh, this is nice. They're going to be a little lunch and, like, great. It's not going to be like that every single day, but they're not daft. But, you're making a bit of a fuss of the new person. Yeah, and then obviously you want to be announcing the new hire internally, so everyone knows that. That's a really good one to do once they start. Maybe they'll be on the same email. Yeah, and maybe put a line in about their background, saying, they're bringing this type of background to us. It's really exciting. We're excited to have them here. And then reminding your staff to feel free to reach out to them. I think that's important. We've got at least one member of staff, I think off the top of my head, Leanne, and she only comes into the office once a month because she works remote. When she comes in, if there's a new star, she's straight, "Hi, I'm Leanne." She's like a one-woman welcoming party, which is fantastic. If we could all be a bit more Leanne, then it would be really a nicer world. Other little ideas, this might be a bit harsh, but maybe you go like, we're going to do this lunch, but then your first Monday in the office or your second Monday in the office, we encourage people to bake something and bring it in or whatever. It's up to you as an organization whether you want to do this, but these are nice touches, and they can put the baking stuff on the edge of their desk and people can come across. It's a good way of breaking the ice. I wouldn't ask someone to do it on day one. I think that would be a bit much. And then this handbook is this is a phenomenal handbook. So I've included this in the appendix. Feel free to read it. It's part for it's absolutely for new employees, but it's almost this organization's philosophy as well, like what they believe in. Their values are flowing through this book. So yeah, but it's really useful book. So it's an inspirational piece. You might be able to, when we talk about like creating content on Notion, like you might be able to take some ideas from this and go, just the way they talk and the way they sort of position themselves is a really great way of getting that message across. Might be that your employee handbook, which is, I don't know if this is feasible, where there's lots of policies in it and various things. I mean, that is more of a policy document, but maybe there's a way of making it a bit more friendly as well, balancing it out. Okay. Now, I also wanted to show you, I'll show you a few wonky things. Immersive virtual office tour. This is a company that we don't sell this, we don't partner with them, and they're not actually that expensive. I'm not going to go and do a sales pitch, but they're in the appendix of this slide. You can look them up, ThingLink, and they do immersive virtual tours. So, obviously you're going to need like a drone or something to get this really good image. But if you've got various images, and then this is like, look, you'll see here, look, they've got various things you can use as well, safety training, etc., etc., etc. This is introduction for new employees. So we can simply come along here and we can click into the factory, and then you sort of can see your way around the factory. So I don't know whether that drone shot at the top is possibly, maybe you have that of your office, maybe you don't. But it's certainly getting, a walkthrough like this is not that complicated, and you can put little videos on here and other things, and meet the team, and you can move around and go to different buildings. So I have seen this done. It's not that expensive. I'll tell you, to give you an example, I'll tell you where it's not that technically challenging. You'll see this on Rightmove when estate agents are selling houses, and they will do immersive virtual tours. Now, it's not that complicated to do. So I think it's a very good idea if you've got a wonderful building, and a wonderful office. Why would you not showcase it off and then give people this? And breaks down those words. Those people that have a little bit of anxiety. Where am I going? What am I seeing? Or like, I don't like new things. So many people stay in jobs because they don't love it, but the idea of a new job just feels too. So the more you can break down barriers and show people where they're going to be working, what goes on, putting little things on there, what makes work, you've got little videos here and things like that. Yeah, all very, very possible. And whilst this can go on there for new onboardees, same content could absolutely go onto your career site as well and showcase, this is our Reading office. Feel free to take the tour and check it out. Yeah, you could even have little bits where people are stood there on the photo and there's Tony, and away you go. The only problem with that is what happens if Tony moves on. But yeah. Okay, so there's an immersive virtual office tour. Right, so moving on to the last section, guys. I'll see if anyone's got any other questions, but there's just a bunch of ideas. But we want to be thinking about, anything we implement, how is this driving the needle? What was our original goals? How are we measuring? Hopefully you're measuring some stuff already, and then you think, if we do all these things, what would our expectations be to improve this? Yeah. So one of the first measurements I would definitely recommend is the people that are accepting your offer and that drop out. before they start. Yeah, non-starters. That should really be measured in the ATS. It's easy to get a status, and someone's withdrew post offer. Fine. Yeah, maybe you record the reason if you find it. Sometimes people just ghost away, but you should definitely measure that. And then with a better onboarding process, also have a better candidate experience, because both of those two things, they just feel, hopefully, they feel more like they've chosen the right thing. Or maybe they drop out before you make them the offer because they work out, because you give them enough information, they work out this probably isn't for me. Yeah. So there are ways of definitely working and improving that metric. So you can measure that day one ghosting, and there's lots of stats around it, around why people ghost. Interestingly, the reason why a lot of candidates might ghost you post applying, they might apply and then you say, oh, would you like to come to an interview? Or you phone someone, you can't get hold of them. A couple of reasons for that is, one is, well, they're both related to the same thing. You invite them to interview and they go, oh, yeah, who is this company again? Because maybe they applied, and it's quite easy to apply to a lot of jobs these days, and they didn't properly vet you out. Once they vetted you out, they might go, no, I'm not so bothered. And because they're not so bothered, they don't maybe even reply back to you. Yeah. But also, it might be that your recruitment process is a bit slow, and that might also be one of the reasons why you've gone back to them. They've looked at you and gone, well, yeah, pretty good. I've got 4 interviews already. Do I need a 5th? If you are the 5th, organisation to offer them an interview in that 2-week period or whatever, you're going to have a really engaging proposal for them to. Nobody wants 5 interviews, really. They can avoid it. But day one ghosting happens. I don't know if there's too much around it you can do, but the more communication you've got, the more you can maybe deal with some of the challenges. I think the better the recruitment process is, hopefully you'll have better candidates coming through the process who feel like they're right for you and you're right for them. But it does still happen. I think it's almost like a generational thing as well. It's so easy now just to drop an email or an SMS. Let me know if anyone has had in the last 3 months on the chat, or even this year, let's say, as a candidate phoned them up to tell them they're not going to be accepting the offer. They've changed their mind. So I think that, in my experience, it never happens via the phone. It will always be an email or a text message or a WhatsApp or something. Yeah, he says never. Yeah, exactly. Okay, a couple of other things then. Recruitment improvement survey. So at the point where you've hired them, this is a named survey, so it's not anonymous. They fill it in. They're right. This is me. I'm Tony. Like blah 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 blah. All new hires get this on day one, but they could actually get it before day one, by the way, as well. You could get it as soon as they're hired, saying this is great. We're going to send you out the details. What we'd love to have now, whilst you're thinking about recruitment, you've been through this process, we would love to get your feedback on how we can improve this process. I mean, with these surveys, you have to verbally introduce them, or maybe via email, but ideally verbally, and explain to the candidate that you want all types of feedback. We want to improve. It's a really good message to send to a new employee. Like, our business works on feedback and improving, not just ignoring problems. So yeah, evaluate's all part of the journey, including that pre-boarding. So so if you did it on day one, you can evaluate pre-boarding as well. So there's the benefit, but you could just do it about recruitment, and you could have the pre-boarding covered in the onboarding survey, which, once again, same type of thing after 90 days. So easy to do, really important, and you'll get good insights from it. You just got to make sure the candidate is comfortable, is confident that you want good feedback and bad feedback. Yeah, so things we can improve. So Kate has said 7 p.m. on a Friday before starting on the Monday after a 3-month notice period via email. Yeah, okay. I always think that's terrible. It is absolutely terrible, but I always think maybe you dodged a bullet rather than hiring an absolute nightmare employee, perhaps. Okay, one of the key things here, though, is we want to freshen up this process. So whenever you've gone through this as a journey, like hopefully the start of it's happening now, perhaps another sort of review. Let's put something in the diary. Is it 6 months? Is it 12 months? Let's reflect on all those surveys, data we've had through. Let's work out what the trends are, what's happening. Let's go on Adrian's webinar again. Maybe there's a new one. Let's get some new ideas, and let's see what we can do to freshen things up. Yeah. Okay. And then finally, the key takeaways. Let's get everyone committed to great onboarding. So that just says, reminds everyone in the business, like the work that's gone in around recruitment to hire this person. Let's not drop the ball. Let's have us all. Who's owning it? Let's make sure that it's very visible. You know, we're gonna survey candidates. They're going to tell us all these things about what their experience was in the onboarding process. So maybe we're benchmarking managers and, you know, and setting their score against the average for every other manager in the organization, I'm saying. But, you know, the more you can do to make sure everyone is committed and supporting them to deliver a great onboarding as well. Plan for at least one wow moment if you can think about that. Is there some, and that could just be something for your organization. I met an organization that did footwear distribution. They, by their own estimation, they said, oh, we're not the sexiest company in the world. And I said, well, look, you know, having, you know, nice benefit, having a few quirky benefits. So they were planning on giving a free pair of shoes away then on someone's birthday. So it's not quite an onboarding wow moment, but it's an example of them just thinking about their situation and what they can do for, you know, to develop a little wow moment into their benefits. Oh, that's quite quirky, didn't think of that, or whatever it could be. Yeah, and obviously we need to measure, we need to look at everything that you could possibly measure. I've come up with a few simple ones here today, but there might be some other things that you want to measure. And then, yeah, start measuring it. Even if you're not getting the full picture, if someone said, well, we put out the survey, but not everyone completes it. Fine. Well, think about how you introduced the survey and you can probably get a better completion rate. Maybe send out a reminder, maybe send out a follow-up call. So, oh, any chance you should be able to get pretty high completion rates of the survey. But even if, you know, the data is imperfect, still it's useful data. Yeah, it's better than no data. Okay. Oh, just to remind you, hireful's got a wonderful onboarding module. And then additional reading, yeah, I thought I'd show you this as well. So this is another onboarding software provider. I don't know whether they're a good onboarding software provider or not. Obviously, the link's there to their PDF. They've got a nice onboarding checklist. So I thought I would put this in as well. So it sort of has all the details here. To be honest as well, you could put this document into ChatGPT and go, you know, what is it missing? Think of new ideas, or we're in this sector, how would you change it? So I would definitely be using, when you've got to generate content, like create a checklist or do anything like that, I would definitely be using ChatGPT to sort of, or whatever your AI tool of choice is, to support me on that. Yeah, and then I put it on the chat. I'll put it on the chat again, just to remind you next week's webinar. So if you haven't signed up already, we had a brilliant sign-up rate and attendance rate for this webinar. So we'd love to see you on for that, which is going to get deeper into the actual day 1 to day 90 process. And that's pretty much the webinar as we come up to 11 o'clock, guys. So feel free. I'd love to see what rating you give it. If you add a comment to the webinar, that's really useful. We go through all those comments. If you add your name next to the comment, then we also get to put you on a little wall of love, if that's okay with you guys. So I'll just show you that, the wall of love that comes through here. So at the bottom, it says like feedback from our recent attendees. And we can just see that on there. So yeah, some great stuff there. So we'd love to have a few more of them. Thank you for the lovely emoji feedback as well. That makes my heart sing. That's great. And yeah, good luck with your onboarding. We'll get the slides and the recording out to you. That'll go tomorrow. We just got to put the recording together. And then any other questions as well, feel free to reach out. These are my contact details. My job title here is Chief Helper. So, you know, I am meant to make myself accessible to you guys. So whether you're a customer or hireful or not, regardless, reach out and I would love to be able to answer any questions or point you in the direction of other places you might be able to get some good answers to. Okay, I'm going to leave you there, guys. Thank you for the lovely feedback as well and good luck with your onboarding. Cheers then. Bye.